Welcome to Adult Ed. I'm glad to have y'all here. We're tickled that y'all are here with us. We're grateful to y'all for coming here and being with us. This is your program. So I am curious to hear from you. What do you hope to get out of our program? Why did you come to us? What are you looking to get out of what we do here?
Why do you
You're looking to get your diploma, yeah, absolutely. You withdrew from high school, so you're looking to now get the legal equivalent of a high school diploma, which is what an HSE is, what you get from us. What about you?
I want to get my degree and go help with counseling.
Counseling, okay, well, very good. What about you?
Pretty much just get my GED.
Gotcha. And then just sort of see where it goes from there, what you can do from there.
Yeah.
Excellent. The most important thing that I can tell you and help you to understand is that you're not here to get a diploma. Not here just to get a diploma. I know that's why you came in the door. I know that's what you're looking to do. I want you to understand that this is absolutely what we do, but it's only part of what we do. Adult Ed is not just a place to come and learn how to pass a test, although we will most certainly help you with that. Adult Ed is a place to come in and, if you want to, completely reinvent yourself. Create a new life for yourself. There are two things that you're really here to do, and we will help you get the diploma, and it is important. Now, it's a piece of paper, all right? It's an important piece of paper, and you should be proud of yourself when you've earned it. It's a piece of paper in the same way that a plane ticket is a piece of paper. It's something you use to get somewhere, and what you do with that diploma is really the most important thing. What you are here at the core to do is two things. Number one, figure out where you're going and how to get there. I mean, it is very true that if you don't make plans for your own life, there are plenty of people who will be glad to make those plans for you, okay? And it's my job to help you to do that, figure out where you're going and figure out how to get there. And the other thing you're here to do is to get better and better and better every day at the most important skill that you can acquire, and that is the skill of learning new information. It's the most important thing you can, of course I'm going to say that because this is a school, but it's important for you to do all the time, and it's especially important when you get finished and you start your career, whatever that career is. Because everything is changing very, very rapidly. Have y'all noticed this, that things are sort of changing around us? The world of work is changing for sure. And so the more you learn and the more you continue to learn, the more adaptable you will be. And the better able you'll be, the better able you will be to navigate all this very, very these shifting sands that we find ourselves in. And also, you know, there are a lot of skills you need to have to be successful in life, and you're learning a lot of them in Ms. Meek's class here. There's only one way to get those skills, and that is to learn them, right? We're not born with time management and teamwork and all this sort of thing. You have to learn those skills, and the better you are at learning, the better you are at everything. So from the moment you come in the door with us, that is what you're doing. You are working on your diploma from the moment you come in here and start working on this curriculum, which you do in phase 1, the first 4 weeks of the program. You are improving your academic skills, your reading skills, your language skills, which is a little bit different thing than reading skills, and your writing, your math skills, just with a very different curriculum than you've ever seen before, right? You're also earning national certifications and learning good skills that will help you throughout your life. But again, you are constantly getting better at these things these first 4 weeks, and then after you go on to phase 2 and start working on the actual subjects, you know, that algebra and science and social studies, everybody's just dying to get their hands on, I know. What you're doing when you're studying those things is you are getting better and better at learning generally. Okay, so please try to remember that when you're working an algebra equation or whatever it may be. We're here not just to help you learn what you need to know, like I say, to pass a test. We want to help you learn what you need to learn to be successful in life. And we're learning these things with you as we go. We're trying to get better at learning every day also. And so we want to help you find a satisfying career. This is the way, of course, that you make your living and you support yourself and support your family. And this is how we make a contribution. It's one of the major ways that we make a contribution in the world. And that's the way you should look at the world of work. Now, this program has 3 components. Most everybody's familiar with this one, the academic skills, learning what you need to learn to pass the test, getting better at reading, better at using language, better at math, this kind of thing. You're also learning success skills. That's what you're learning in here. This is what they generally call soft skills, okay? You also have the opportunity to learn hard skills, professional skills, depending on what you want to do for a living, what kind of training you want to have. It is possible for you also to get some training in those specific skills, which could also include earning college credit while you are still working on your HSE diploma with us. So the idea is for you to have the opportunity to do all 3 of these things. Yes, improve your academic skills. Yes, also learn these soft skills and learn these hard skills. By the way, soft skills sounds awful soft and not effective. That's why I call them success skills. But the difference between what they call soft skills and hard skills is that these hard skills, training in nursing or welding or whatever it may be, those skills help you to learn how to do a specific job. Whereas soft skills, which you learn in here, help you learn how to do a good job, no matter what it is. A hard skill, if you are, say, a plumber, is learning how to fix a drain pipe, right? A soft skill is learning how to fix a drain pipe with 3 screaming kids running through the house. It's something that's a skill you can have to keep you focused no matter what you're doing. Okay, so the idea is to help you with all 3 of these. And of course, this begins with deciding what it is that you want to do. That's why I asked that question this morning. Setting and achieving goals is very important. Look, I'm not going to read word for word everything on all these slides, okay? But I am going to discuss what's important to you, if that's okay with y'all. These 2 quotes are very important. I want to take a couple of minutes to discuss this. First one by Tanveer Nasir, which says, when it comes to achieving our goals, our failures are nothing more than success and progress. I want you to think about that word failure for just a minute. That's a word that we all shy away from because we think about like the big failure. I tried and it didn't work, okay? But a big success is made of 1,000 tiny failures, all right? I've been doing this for a long time, and I've taught in the classroom for several years, and I always have asked students, what subject do you like the least? Or what subject are you most worried about? Or what subject do you hate the most, I guess? What is that for y'all? What subject are you most... Okay, what about you, ma'am?
Yeah.
Same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what probably 95 out of 100 people will say. People are very passionate about this. They really do not like math.
If I could just skip that whole part.
Yeah.
Sure. I hear and I've heard people say through the years, well, I've never been good at math.
Yeah.
Understandable. A lot of people haven't. Or I'm not a math person. It's interesting, most people have defined themselves to me as either a math person or a language person. So I'm not a math person, I'm a language person. And that's interesting because math is actually a language also. It's just a different language. So it's kind of like you're learning a new language. If you learn that language, crack the code, you're fine. All right? And people have even said this, and I love this one. They say, I don't have the math gene. Like there's a gene that makes you good at math. And it sure feels that way, I know. But it's not actually how learning works. The way learning works is this. You set out to learn something, even math, okay? And you sit down and you try to work out an algebra equation. Y'all may be sweating as you think about this. And you feel frustrated, all right? That frustration we interpret a lot of times. It's struggle is what we're talking about. And how you define struggle makes all the difference. That struggle, when you're trying to learn something and it's not clicking, is very easy to say, well, I'm not cut out for this. This isn't my thing. I'm not a math person. It's how it feels, right? Here's what's actually happening. Your brain has to change in particular ways for you to learn anything. It changes functionally, the way it works, and it changes structurally, what the cells are made out of, okay? Particularly, they get wrapped with a certain insulation called myelin that helps you think better. But anyway, in order for that to happen, and you to form those networks in your brain so you can do math, for instance, that brain has to change, and it has to, in order for it to change, it releases certain chemicals within itself to allow those changes to take place. One of them is epinephrine, which y'all probably have heard of as adrenaline. It's the very same thing. Now in your body, when it's released in your body, it gives you sort of strength and vigor and this kind of thing. But in your brain, when it's released in your brain, it helps you to pay attention, okay? It makes you more alert. And it makes you more alert by making you uncomfortable. If we're uncomfortable, then we're more likely to pay attention. You don't notice your big toe until you stub it in the middle of the night, in other words, okay? And so this is what that discomfort is when you're trying to work that algebra equation. That doesn't mean you don't have the gene. What it means is your brain is changing in the way it's supposed to, and you're feeling the effects of a chemical that helps you to do that, essentially, all right? So remember that when you're struggling with it. Because when your brain is making those changes, and this is very important, when your brain is making those changes, you are in a certain brain state, if you will. That's one way to look at it. You're in a learning state. Your brain is now open and receptive. And if you decide then, I don't have the gene, then that is what your brain has learned in a very powerful way. That's how the brain forms then, okay? But if you say to yourself, it's just like working out. If I'm lifting weights, it does not feel good. But when I get to the end of a set, I can't do it anymore. That doesn't mean that I don't have the lifting gene, okay? What it means is I'm tired and this is hard, but I am getting stronger because that's the way muscles work. Your brain is not made of muscle. It's made of nerve tissue, but it works the very same way. Exactly when it feels like you're not getting it, that is exactly the point at which your brain is changing and you are starting to get it. And those connections then form, interestingly, when you sleep. So it's important to get a good night's sleep, especially after you're trying to learn something, which can be a challenge, I know, but do the best you can. And that doesn't mean if you're not getting enough sleep every single night, you're not going to ever get it. No, that's different from not having the gene. But all these things work together, and your brain works in a particular way, and you've got essentially the same brain that everybody else does. This is the way that it works for just about everybody. Keep going when you're struggling, because your brain will make the adjustments it needs to. Does this make sense to everybody? Y'all didn't know you're getting a neuroscience lecture this morning, as best I can understand it anyway, okay? So failure is important. If you don't get it, fine, I'm going to keep going. My brain will change and I'll get it. This next quote, I will spend 90% less time on. What you get by achieving your goals, according to Thoreau, is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. Stephen Covey used to talk about being versus having. If you want to have something, you have to be something. If you want to have good grades in a class when you start studying psychology or counseling, then you have to be a good student. That's what you can control, is what you can be, and becoming better and better at what you're trying to do. That's the goal, okay? Setting it, and again, the goal, you have to decide what you're trying to do. I don't really like the word goals, by the way. I like the word targets, because the target's something you shoot at. Okay, a goal seems like something really far off. I'm setting this goal, maybe I'll get there, maybe I won't. A target is right there, okay? And any good goal or target is going to have these 5 essential elements represented by the acronym SMART. The S stands for specific. What exactly do you want to achieve? That target is a whole lot easier to hit if you can see it clearly, right? It needs to be clear. With one caveat here, when we're talking about something as big as deciding what you're going to do for a living, start broad. Think about just the kind of work you want to do, not necessarily a job title, the field you want to go into, and then we can narrow it down from there. But you at least need to know what direction to turn in order to hit the target, where the target is, okay? And then we can whittle it down from there. But specifically what you want to do, that's important. And I'll help you sort of fine-tune that. Measurable, how you know when you've achieved it. If I wanted to lose weight, I would probably need to get on the scales every day to see how I'm doing, all right? And if I did, in fact, start to see weight go down a little bit, then a powerful, powerful thing happens. I would begin to notice my progress. Now, you need to notice where you're not quite there yet so you can work on those things, but it is very, very important for you to notice when you're making any progress whatsoever. Now, don't get cocky, but notice when you're making progress, because the adrenaline that I was talking about that makes you feel uncomfortable, as you begin to notice that you're making progress, that adrenaline begins to be replaced with a molecule that feels much, much better but does the same thing, and that is dopamine. Have y'all heard of dopamine before? Dopamine is the molecule, the chemical of motivation. It keeps us going. When you begin to see that you're making progress, you are going to want to make more progress, even in math, okay? So that's important. Attainable is something you have control over. For centuries, people have recognized that the best thing that you can do in your life is to decide what you can control and what you cannot control. And to ideally put 100% of your time and attention on what you can control and 0% on what you cannot control. Yes, we need to be aware of what we're concerned about, but we need to know what we can control. There's an awful lot that we can control. Focus on that, on what is attainable, on what we can do. You have to do what you can, but only what you can. If you don't do what you can, you're not going to be happy with yourself. But you have to know your limits too and focus on what you are able to control, okay? As my grandmother used to say, all you can do is all you can do, and that's all you can do. I don't know how many people quote their grandmother on a presentation, but I thought she was a wise woman, and she raised 8 kids, so she should know what you can control and what you can't control. Are rewarding, will it be satisfying to you? This is also essential. It's important to know exactly what you're shooting for. It's important to be able to see the target. But it's also equally important to know why you're shooting at it in the first place. Why it is that you're doing what you're doing. You may want to have a certain amount of money in the bank in, say, 5 years from now. And that's okay. But if you don't know what you're going to do with that money, you can get greedy, right? We need money to live on. We need money to accomplish things. Money is a resource, okay? It's like the gas in your tank. People say you shouldn't love money. Absolutely. It'd be like loving the gas in your tank. I mean, you know, it's just something that you use to get from point A to point B. Money is something that you use to accomplish something. So know why it is that you're doing things. And finally, time-bound, what is your deadline? A goal or a target is a dream with a deadline, okay? Set a time limit. This is the time by which I want to accomplish whatever it may be. And if you don't accomplish that by then, it's okay. Just set another timeline and keep going. The goal is to make progress. Shoot for perfection, but settle for progress. If you're making progress, that's what's important. Every day, try to learn a little bit more than you did the day before and improve a little bit over the day before. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. One thing that I've highlighted here is write it down. I want you to remember this acronym, TOP. That stands for Think on Paper. When you're trying to figure out something, write it down. Make some loose notes. Draw a mind map like I like to do, whatever it is, okay? Because I'm sort of a visual. I like visuals. We all like pictures. A book's a whole lot better if it's got pictures in it, right? Put it down on paper. Draw. By golly, I mean, there is research, good research out there that shows that if we draw a picture of something, we're more likely to remember it than if we make a note about it. So whatever works for you, but put it down in front of you so you can see it. It's a whole lot easier to think about that way, all right? And that's especially true with your targets, your goals, what you want to accomplish. You have different levels of goals in terms of the time frame, okay? You have short-term goals, basically what you want to do in the next 2 years, intermediates between 2 years and 5 years, and then long-term goals more than 5 years. Of course, this depends on how long it's going to take to do it. But you also need to understand this. What you want to be doing, say, 5 years from now, tells you what to be doing now. That's how we organize our activities. That's how we know what to do every day. So I want to carry y'all through a very quick exercise. It's not going to be hard. It's not going to be as hard as telling me why it is that you're here. Y'all know it's going to hit you with questions this early in the morning. I just want you to daydream, which is usually not hard to do in a class, okay? But I want you to daydream about something specific. I want you to daydream about, I want you to imagine something specific. So get yourself comfortable. You can close your eyes if you need to, look down, soften your gaze, whatever helps you to see in your mind's eye. And I want you to imagine that today is May the 4th, 2028. It's early in the morning. You stumble into your kitchen. You look at your calendar and you see that it's May the 4th, 2028. I want you to imagine what your kitchen looks like. It may be your actual kitchen now. You may be in a different place entirely. Your own place, a house, an apartment, a condo by the sea, a wigwam, wherever it is that you want to live. I want you to imagine that that is where you are. And it's early in the morning and you're getting ready to start your work day. And this is the hardest thing for most people to imagine. I want you to imagine that you standing in there in your kitchen know that everything went as well as it possibly could over the last 5 years. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, it most certainly had problems, but you were able to overcome those problems. You were able to find the time and the money to do the kind of training or education you need to get to do the kind of work that you want to do. All that is behind you. And now, May the 4th, 2028, you're getting ready to start your work day. What kind of work are you going to do today? Don't even think about a job title at this moment. What kind of work, what activities are you going to engage in for 8+ hours today that will help you to make your living? And now fast forward 2 hours and you are doing it. Picture yourself doing it. If that picture is fuzzy, that's okay. Work at it over time until it gets clear. That mental image, that is what you are working towards. Not the diploma itself. The diploma is going to happen along the way. You doing that kind of work 5 years from now, or however long it takes you with the training that you need to get, that's what you're working towards. And that will be satisfying to you. And that's the most important thing. I want to help you find work that will be satisfying to you, that will be fulfilling to you, that you will enjoy, that you'll do well at. And yes, that you'll have a lot of opportunity and make good money at. Does this make sense to everybody? So that's what I want you to do. So, setting achieving goals, to sum up here, start with a dream or a goal. Decide what target you're shooting at. Sort through your options. Reach into your quiver of arrows and figure out what you need to do to hit that target. Create a plan. Make a plan to do it. And focus on today. This is something that does not get talked about a whole lot in goal setting. Setting goals and targets, that's about today, really, not the future. I mean, I know I just had you to imagine yourself 5 years from now. You need to know what you're going to do 5 years from now, want to be doing 5 years from now. But the way you get there is what you do right now. Right now is the only time that you ever have to do anything. That's the only time you can do anything. You cannot jump forward 5 years. You can't jump forward 5 seconds. And you sure you can't go back in the past and redo everything, or everybody in this room would. Y'all may not have any regrets. If you don't, you can borrow some of mine, okay? We can only do something right now. This moment that you have right now will never come again. Even if you come back to this same place, what's today, Thursday? If you come back to this same place Monday, you'll be a little bit different person. The circumstances will be a little bit different. This is the only time you ever have this time right now. Make the best use of it. Ask yourself, what I'm doing right now, is that going to help me get to where I want to get to? Remember that and think about that. So now we're going to talk about careers, and I'm going to give you just sort of a laundry list of different options that are available to you. Next week, I'll sit down with y'all one-on-one and talk with you a little bit more in depth about what's important to you and what you want to do. But I'm going to talk to you about generally what's out there. There's 16 different fields that we generally talk about, or pathways, stuff you could do, fields you could go into like healthcare, transportation, etc. We'll go through these. I'm not going to read through every single job that's up here. I think y'all have a handout that has your list of this stuff. And I will talk to you, though, about what we can help you do at Northeast, because I work at Northeast, and this is what we're here to do, okay? But I want you to understand, too, that whatever it is you want to do for a living, whatever that involves you doing, whatever training program, wherever that may be, that's what I'm going to help you to do, all right? But we can help you do an awful lot at Northeast. So beginning with the agriculture, food, and natural resources pathway, managing our natural resources, providing food for everybody, which is kind of important. I like food for sure, and we kind of need it. And so this is a huge field, pardon the pun. One thing we can help you do at Northeast is diesel mechanic. There are diesel mechanics out there with a 2-year degree making $100,000 a year. They're working hard, they're working a lot, they're real good at what they do. That is possible, okay? Most of them don't start out that, most of them start out about 45, 50,000, which ain't bad. In Jumpertown, where I'm from, that's pretty good money, okay? Architecture and construction. Construction is a huge deal also, of course. There are certain things you can do in this computer-aided drafter. That's not driving a nail at all. Computer-aided drafter, a drafter is someone who uses a 3D computer program and 3D technology, including these cool 3D printers that we have, to make blueprints. Not just blueprints for buildings, but also for products. This clicker here, before it came off of an assembly line somewhere, somebody had to draw a blueprint of it in 3D so they knew what to do. And so that's what you do. Now, if you are a visual person, kind of an artistic person, you like photography, you like to draw, you like the visual world, that's not a bad thing to look at. And I know it is not working as a professional artist, but it does require a certain amount of creativity, and it's very, very visual. And it's a good way you can make $50,000 to $60,000 a year doing that all day long, okay? Construction manager, we have a 2-year degree in construction technology, which helps you work as a manager in the construction process. Or a building inspector, there are different things you can do. They make good money for sure. Electrician, there are definitely electricians making $100,000 a year. They're not all making that kind of money. They're doing pretty darn well. Think about everything that runs on electricity. More and more stuff all the time. More and more cars running on electricity. We've got technology running out the wazoo here. I mean, we've got, everything is electrical these days. We need more and more. It's actually a big problem. How are we going to generate the amount of electricity we need? And we need people to help provide that, and that's electricians. That's a 2-year degree also. Welder, that's not even a 2-year degree. That's a 3-month training program that we do in New Albany, is the closest place to here. It does not cost a single dime to do that program. It's fully scholarshiped. 3 months, you got training, you got a national NCCER certification that is good anywhere. You can work as a welder around here. You can go down to the coast and build those big Navy ships and make even better money. You can work as what they call a journeyman, a traveling welder. You work. Is that right? Okay.
We make our money doing that. They used to send them overseas and everything.
Is that right? I know they try. A lot of people do that just because they want to travel.
Yeah, so he did it for a long time, so he went everywhere.
Okay, yeah, those folks are making $30-40 an hour. And if you got a not a death wish, if you don't mind a little bit of danger, it's not nearly as dangerous as it used to be. But underwater welding, where they put you in this decompression chamber and lower you very.
A lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, they have for decades made at least $100 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's like lawyer money. Okay, so but. Point is, you can do that with a 3-month training program that doesn't cost you anything. Okay, so that's a pretty good deal. HVAC. If any of y'all ever had to or saw your parents have to call somebody to come out and work on the air conditioner, I have had to do that, and I can tell you it's been my experience. They make real good money. Okay, that's something to think about. If you want to do that, you can kind of work outside and inside. So if that's important, that's a good thing. Bring some wasp spray with you if you do that. But a lot of people really like doing that, and it does pay well. Arts, audio, visual, technology, communications. I don't think this internet thing and digital communication, cell phones, I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. That's probably the way it is, okay? And so digital communication, that's really, really important, especially visual communication, okay? We have a 2-year degree at Northeast in information technology where we can help you learn how to design web pages, make websites, and apps for Apple iOS devices. We have a very close relationship with the Apple Corporation. Every Northeast student gets an iPad, and that's what your textbooks for the most part are on, okay? And we teach people how to build apps for those things. Pretty good money in that, I understand. By the way, if you're sort of a visual creative person and you want to do a 4-year degree that's in high demand, graphic design is in awfully high demand, okay? So these are all things to think about. These are all viable, good paid careers. Come on now. Business. This is the field that I come from. I was a sales rep for 14 years before I started working for Northeast. And I can tell you, if you want to be like an executive level manager, or even a mid-level manager, a bank president, an accountant, a loan officer, something like that, you probably need a 4-year degree in business administration. If you want to just learn how business works and perhaps run your own business, maybe you want to be, I don't know, a cosmetologist, you're going to be in business for yourself, you need to know some business because you're running your own business. You're more than likely either you own a salon or you rent a booth from somebody, file your own taxes and all that sort of thing. You need to know how it works. We have a 2-year degree in business management at Northeast that helps you learn the ins and outs of business, okay? That's a good program to look at. Education and training, if you want to be a teacher, God help you, because it is not an easy way to make a living. It is very, very satisfying, however, to help people. The thing I love more than anything else is for a student to come see me 5 years later and tell me about all the great things that have happened to them, all the money they're making, and they're making more money than I am. I've done my job, if that's the case. I'm happy for them. And so, and of course, again, money's not everything, but if I see somebody doing well, a former student, that really, really makes me feel good. But there are other ways you can make a living in education. What a lot of people do is this. They fix the computers in the school, and they set up the networks and work with the hardware. We have a 2-year degree that can help you do that. And they work for 10 months out of the year, and they work for the school district, and they have state retirement and benefits and all that sort of thing. And then when school's out during the summer, they take a couple of months and put the resume out there on Indeed and do some contract work, make some real money. Okay? So, not a bad way to go. Finance. If you like money, and who doesn't, if you like understanding how money works, yes, you can get a 4-year degree. You can be an accountant. You can be an economist, that sort of thing. You could also get a 2-year degree in accounting and work as a bookkeeper. And bookkeepers are in high demand also. Government public administration, there are too many government jobs to mention. I'll just say a couple of things. Number one, these are public service jobs. Ms. Meeks and I are public servants. And that's the way to see it. We are there to help the people who the government is there to serve. That's the right attitude to have about it, I think. Also, that is one field in which your level of education, the degrees that you have, can directly impact how much money you make and, of course, how much opportunity you have. Make sense? Health science. This is as big as anything. We're not getting healthier. And our population is skewing older. And there are huge, I mean huge shortages in healthcare, especially in direct patient care. Y'all may have heard that a lot of hospitals are in trouble. Part of that is they don't have enough staff. And they can only have so many hospital beds open depending on how many nurses they have, because you have patient ratios. And there are good reasons that one nurse can only see so many patients. Because one nurse can only see so many patients. And we could say, hey, we can let every nurse take care of 100 patients. That's fine as long as you're not one of the 100. If you are, you're probably not going to get very good care because there's only so much they can do. Nursing is the big one. We help a lot of people do a lot of things in healthcare, but an awful lot of people tell me they want to work in nursing, and I encourage them to do that because right now in Mississippi, we lost, during the pandemic, 3,000 RNs. And there are 2 different levels of licensure, LPN and RN. facilities are hiring more LPNs than they used to because there's such a shortage of RNs. We lost 3,000 RNs in the pandemic, and we're still that short. We could hire 3,000 RNs in Mississippi right now, and that would get us fully staffed. That is a crisis. And so to be a nurse or to work in direct patient care, to be a respiratory therapist or a radiologic technician or whatever, you have to have three things. You have to have the head for it. That is, you need to be willing to study and learn the stuff. You have to have the head for it. You have to have the heart for it, for sure. And you have to have the stomach for it. Because but there are also jobs out there, if you're one of these people who says, I don't mind blood, I just don't want to see it coming out of somebody. You could be a lab technician. There's a lot of stuff that you could do. So healthcare is a wide open field. There are also short-term trainings like CNA and EMT that take 3 months to finish, and you can get a good job working in healthcare that way. Again, we're here to help you do whatever it is that you want to do. But health science, if you have any desire whatsoever to work in that, I want to encourage you to, because we need people and we need good people. Hospitality and tourism. Do you think very many people visit Mississippi? Do you think that our tourism income, our tourism revenue, how high do you think that is? How much do you think tourists spend in Mississippi every year? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I wouldn't say very long.
Would you guess it is as high as $100 million a year?
No.
Okay, probably not quite that much.
Mississippi's not that great, but to somebody who's not been here, it might be pretty interesting.
Yeah, turns out it is. Turns out the tourism revenue yearly, the most recent figures we have, are $6.4 billion with a B. People do in fact visit Mississippi. They love the coast. They like the casinos. They like the Delta, again the casinos, but also it's just a fascinating place. Y'all ever been to the Mississippi Delta where you can see all the way to Arkansas from Jackson? I mean, almost, but it's fascinating. They like Oxford. They like the food. People who come to Mississippi just to eat, especially on the coast, but everywhere. My mama's cooking in Jumpertown's pretty good, okay? People will come by the truckload to see where Elvis grew up. That's the bit
I
that
forgot he's from.
Yep, Tupelo, Mississippi.
Oh, okay, see, that
The
was
birthplace.
gonna bring them along.
Yeah, right around the corner from my house. I walk the dogs down there all the time. Now these two crazy dogs, and so I walk them a lot to wear them out, wear them down,
Yeah.
and I see tags from all over the country there. 100,000 visitors a year come to that place.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know Elvis was from here.
Yeah, he grew up in Tupelo.
Tupelo.
Moved
But I'm
to,
not from here either,
yeah,
so. I don't-
gotcha. He moved to Memphis. His family moved to Memphis when he was 12, I think, something like that. We have a big statue of him as a boy there and everything. It's 100,000 people a year. That's a lot of ticket sales to get in, and it's a lot of restaurant meals, and it's a lot of hotel rooms too. And we have two-year degrees that are very closely aligned. One of them is culinary arts, so if you want to cook for a living, work in the back of the house, as they say in the restaurant industry, or work in the front of the house, manage a restaurant or manage a hotel. That's hospitality management. And you can do one of those two-year degrees and work in a dynamic field. And you can do either one of those in 2 years, or there are so many courses that are the same, that are required for both of them, that you could actually go one or two extra semesters and have a degree in both of them. And the more skills you have, the more opportunity you have. So if you want to work in tourism, not a bad way to go at all. Human services, this is where it's your job to help people. This is counseling, being a therapist, this kind of thing, okay? You need a bachelor's degree to do most of this stuff, and it really helps if you have a master's. You have a lot more opportunity if you do. Information technology, you talk about a big field. Now we have a 2-year degree in information systems technology. There are 3 different ways you can go with that. I already talked to you about fixing computers and setting up networks. I talked to you about building apps for Apple iOS devices and building websites. And then there's also cybersecurity, which is a huge, huge issue. It's an issue of national security. It's an issue of the security of private businesses. Stuff gets hacked all the time, right? And if you take that degree, you learn how to hack yourself. But not to hack, to protect whoever you work from having their system hacked. You learn to test systems and make sure they're hack-proof. If we didn't have people doing that, heaven knows what kind of shape we would be in. And there's a huge shortage of those people, and they make good money. In Mississippi, they make well over $60,000 a year. Nationwide, the figures are about $100,000 a year, okay? On average. That's not the highest performers, okay? If you're going to perform, be a high performer, all right? So something real good to look at. And by the way, one of the instructors in that program 4 years ago was one of our students in Boonville. She got her GED with us. She found out about that program. She enrolled in it. She excelled at it. She did such a good job in that 2-year program that this doesn't happen every day. But when one of the instructors left in the last semester of her second year, they hired her when she graduated to come teach in the program. She's a real good person to talk to. If you think you want to work in that program, I'll set up an interview with you, a meeting with you, and we'll go talk to her, okay? Law, public safety, corrections. I do occasionally talk to people who want to work in law enforcement. You do not have to have any college unless you want to go on the highway patrol and you're under 21, okay? You do have to have a high school diploma. That is one area in which, you really need a high school diploma to do the job, okay? Usually you get hired on by a department if you work in law enforcement. They send you to the academy in Tupelo, pay for it. So that's kind of how that works. Manufacturing. This is the second largest field in Mississippi, behind food and natural resources. Mississippians make $17 billion worth of goods every year. Manufacturing is huge, and all the economic development that you see where our public leaders are trying to bring people in and create jobs, it's almost always manufacturing. Okay, and there's some real good jobs in manufacturing. There's some good jobs just working on the floor, working in production. But also, machinists. That's a high-end metal worker. That's somebody who uses sophisticated technology and machines to make stuff out of metal. Everything from ammunition up to artificial hips, to large components for huge industrial machinery, to tools, engine blocks, everything, okay? A lot of income potential there for sure. Welding, we talked about. Maintenance. Keeping all this sophisticated computer-operated machinery running. Y'all have probably heard that robots are taking over and we're not going to have a job in a few years, right? Have y'all heard this? That everything's robotic and AI and all this sort of stuff with ChatGPT now especially. So this has been a concern for a long time. But think about this. In a manufacturing facility, if machines are doing most of the actual work, then most of the jobs are going to be in keeping that machinery running, keeping it from breaking down and then fixing it when it does break down. Because these factories lose hundreds and thousands of dollars a second in some cases when these machines shut down. They're definitely industrial maintenance people making $100,000 a year. And electricians, I mentioned already, there's a lot of good jobs in that field for sure. Marketing, sales, and service. Again, I was in sales for 14 years. I worked for a lot of people that didn't have a 4-year degree. That 2-year degree in business management works pretty well for that, okay? And STEM, y'all ever heard of STEM? Like every 10 minutes when you were in school? There's a reason you heard about that so much. We don't have enough people working in these jobs. And that's one of the reasons that they pay so much. Manufacturing technician I talked about already, and industrial maintenance tech. And if you are able to overcome your math allergy and learn some high-level math, and you like understanding how things are put together and how they work, if you want a 4-year degree where you will always have a good job, engineering, we don't have enough engineers. So that's something to think about. And finally, transportation. Y'all see any trucks going up and down the road? UPS trucks, FedEx trucks, 18-wheelers, planes flying stuff. Moving stuff around is a huge deal, especially in the Amazon and online shopping world now. Ma'am?
You got to be a delivery specialist or whatever they call it. You got to be 21, don't you?
I'm not sure. I don't think 21. And here's why. I already talked about diesel mechanics, and that's a big thing because most transportation and construction and farm equipment, runs on diesel. But those UPS trucks, I see black smoke coming out of them, so I assume they're running on diesel engines also, on 18-wheelers, all this sort of thing, okay? You can also work as a truck driver, and to your point about delivery drivers, here's the way. We do have a truck driving program at Northeast. It's the shortest training program we have. It's 8 weeks, okay, 2 months, and you've got truck driving skills, and you've got a Class A CDL license, okay, and you can drive a truck. If you are over 18 but not yet 21, you can drive in-state, all right? Once you're 21, you can drive over the road to other states, and those are the folks making anywhere from 50 to 80 grand a year, okay? I would therefore assume that if you're 18, as long as you're driving in-state, then you'd be okay. You'd be able to deliver.
So let's drive on big trucks. I'm scared of driving big
Yeah,
trucks.
but not over the road. You have to stay in-state, okay? Which, I mean, if you think about it, if you live in, say, Corinth, which is right on, or let's say Walnut, which is right on the state line, you can drive all the way to Gulfport, but you can't drive across the line. But that's the way it is. We have to draw some boundaries, and that's how we do it. So, there's such a demand for drivers now, they're actually contracting out that work. People show up in, like, their own vehicle to deliver your package. So, a lot of jobs in transportation, evidently. And not just diesel mechanics, but also just regular auto mechanics, your regular personal vehicle, and collision repair. I don't know if y'all have ever had to have a dent fixed, something fixed on your car. My now 17-year-old son, when he got his driver's license last year at 16, he was so excited. We took a picture of him with his driver's license and all that. 2 days later, he had a wreck. He and some dude kind of locked horns trying to get into the same lane. It tore the bumper up, of course. Didn't cause any structural damage. It didn't mess up the chassis or anything like that. It dented up the front fender pretty good because that's where the impact occurred. And it dented up his door a little bit, and it put a scratch on the back fender, $4,400. Okay, so once again, I can tell you from experience, these folks make good money. And so if you like doing that, then that's something to think about. Do y'all have any questions about any of those 16 pathways? Then I'm going to close up by close this little song and dance here out by telling you this. Number one, don't plan your whole life. Unless you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, basically, and you're going to be in school for 10 years, anything short of that, don't plan what you want to do for the rest of your life. Y'all are young, I can tell by looking at you. And you've got a lot of your life ahead of you. Do not feel that whatever kind of training you get, you are stuck doing that forever, okay? Instead, plan what you want to do for about 10 or 15 years. About 10 or 15 years. Learn everything you can about it, get as good at it as you can, and put some money in the bank. And in 10 or 15 years, if you decide that you want to do something different, which you may very well, I made it 14, okay? Or if market conditions change and unfortunately you have to do something different, then you will be in a much better position to do it, okay? Give yourself permission to do it later on down the road. I'm going to do this as long as I want to. I'm going to get real good at it. And then if I want to do something else, I'll do something else. Should be your mentality. Or if you hit that mark and it turns out you love what you're doing, you got plenty of opportunity, make plenty of money, it's even easier. Just show up for work the next day. Okay? But give yourself permission to do something different. And finally, don't sell yourself short. It may seem like a stretch for you to go to college or to do a training program or to think big about what kind of jobs might be out there that you could take advantage of. Whatever you do, don't sell yourself short. Here's why I have this frying pan up here. The speaker Zig Ziglar used to love to tell this story about Gentleman Jim Corbett, who was one of the first boxing champions back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The story goes that he also liked to fish, and so he was walking down to his favorite fishing hole one day, and he sees an old man down there fishing, and this old guy is tearing him up. Just about every cast he's pulled in something. And Corbett notices something odd. Number one, most people don't fish that well. Number two, he's catching both big fish and little fish, but he is only keeping the little fish, and he's throwing all the big fish back. I don't know if y'all have ever been fishing or not. That ain't the way you do it generally, okay? So this was really odd. So finally he couldn't take it anymore. Runs down there and he's like, what are you doing? Why is it that you're throwing back all these big fish? This is what everybody comes down here to do, and you're like throwing them back, and you're only hanging on these little bitty ones? What gives? The old man says, son, I'd love to keep some of them big fish, but I can't do nothing with no big fish. I can't cook no big fish, because all I got at home is a little old bitty frying pan. Now, of course, it's, he couldn't just like cut the fish up or get a bigger frying pan. He thought that's all he had to work with, and he thought that's all he could handle. And that's the point I'm making that I'm sure y'all have caught on to. Y'all, again, I've been doing this for a long time, which you can tell by looking at me. And I have heard a lot of students tell me that what they heard throughout their life is, you're never going to amount to anything. You're too stupid to amount to anything. It just ain't in the cards for you, that kind of thing. I don't know if you heard that or not. If you did, I want to dispel you of that notion right now. I hope you understand that's nonsense, okay? Your frying pan, that is your set of capabilities, is as big as the floor plan in this building, and it only gets bigger as you continually, every day, work to make it bigger. Learn more and more, become more and more capable. That's how you get to where you want to get to. Sound good? What questions do y'all have for me? Any questions about anything? Tired of hearing me talk? I'm tired of talking too, so I'll shut up now. I just want y'all to know how much we appreciate y'all being here, and how much I look forward to working with all of you to help you make whatever it is that you want to do a reality. Sound good?